Hello, welcome to the SSH to an Amazon Web Services vMX instance using Putty Learning Byte. I'm Gordon Mosley with the Education Services Department at Juniper Networks. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. After successfully completing this Learning Byte, you will be able to use a Putty client to secure shell to a vMX instance that's running in an Amazon Web Services virtual private cloud. Juniper Networks has made an Amazon machine image compatible version of the vMX platform available in the Amazon Web Services marketplace. So you can deploy a vMX inside of your Amazon Web Services virtual private cloud. Now, as part of the configuration of your vMX, a public-private key pair is generated. And that key pair would allow you to secure shell into your vMX instance once it's up and running. Now, if you're using Putty, if that's your regular secure shell client, there's an issue. The key pair that's generated is not in a format that Putty can natively use. So we have to use the PuttyGen application to convert the .pem file, the public-private key pair file generated by the Amazon Web Services, into a .ppk file that Putty natively uses, right? So the purpose of this Learning Byte is I want to demonstrate this process for you. I'm going to connect to the Amazon Web Services environment now and begin the demonstration process. This is the Amazon Web Services console, and I already have an instance of a virtual MX up and running. The status, all the connectivity checks have passed, and I have a public-private IP address. This is an elastic IP address that is mapped to the private IP address that's assigned to the FXP0 management port on this running instance of my vMX. Now once it's up and running, you'll see inside of the AWS console a connect button. Now, clicking on that, it will bring up a window that gives me instructions about how to secure shell into this running instance to begin, managing it, monitoring it, maintaining it. Normally, I connect with a standalone SSH client. I'm going to use Putty in this Learning Byte, but you also have the option. If your browser supports it, there is a Java applet that can be run inside of your browser that can act as an SSH client. But again, this is kind of browser dependent, and so I'm going to use a standalone SSH client, and it gives you instructions. Okay, hey, here's the elastic IP address, the public IP address that you would secure shell to begin managing this instance, and it gives you a sample, secure shell command. Secure shell. Here's my key pair file that I would like to use to connect to this vMX instance. Now, there is, if you'll notice, a special section, a link for, wait, if you want to connect using Putty, there are some additional steps. So let me click this link, and it will open up a new tab in my browser with specific instructions related to Putty. And again, this simply deals with the format that the public-private key pair is stored in by Amazon Web Services is not compatible with the format that Putty supports. And so it will walk you through the steps that I'm going to demonstrate here for you in this Learning Byte. And so we're going to use the PuttyGen utility to transfer the format from the Amazon Web Services format into something that Putty understands. So now what I want to do, when you launch your vMX instance, you're prompted to generate a public-private key pair, and you will save that to your management workstation, my local desktop here. So I'm going to open up the PuttyGen utility. And what I want to do at this point is I want to load my PEM file, the public-private key pair that was generated by Amazon Web Services when I launched my vMX instance. And so it has a .pem extension. I saved it to my desktop so I could easily find it. I called it, you name it, whatever you want when you launch your vMX instance. I called it MX1 key pair, but the key is it has natively a .pem extension that Putty doesn't natively support. So that's the public-private key pair I want to PuttyGen. Hey, congratulations, you successfully loaded this old format, and if I want to use this key with Putty, I need to use the save private key command to save it in Putty's native format. So I'm going to say OK here and save my private key. Are you sure you want to save this? Even though you didn't do a passphrase in the real world, I'd want to set a passphrase on this key file to make it a little more secure, but I'm just going to say yes. It will come up and prompt me to, give it a name. And so I generally try to use the same name as the PEM file, but I need to take that .pem part off the end of it. And so it's going to save this with the format that Putty understands, with the .ppk extension on there. I'm going to save this to my desktop. And now I'm done with PuttyGen, right? And so I'm going to close this utility down, and it will, once you have the file converted, it will give you instructions on how to then use Putty as your secure shell client. And so I'm going to close this tab, and I'm going to open up my instance of Putty, and I'll demonstrate this process for you. So here's my Putty client. Now, in the default configuration of a newly launched virtual MX instance, the username that you use to connect is JNPR. And so for the host name or the IP address, you'll username JNPR at the public IP address, the elastic IP address that was assigned when you did your vMX configuration. Let me type this in with you looking. I'll probably mess it up. So there's the public IP address that I can use. Now, the additional step, I want to connect and provide a key. So I go in the category column. I'm going to go under SSH and click auth. And now I want to browse for that PPK file, that key pair file that you created with PuttyGen. And again, we saved it on my desktop. Here it is. So I select that. And now I'm going to click open. And it will open up my Putty client. And if I think positive, right, it should connect me into my MX, and it drops me into operational mode. And congratulations, you've just secure shelled into your vMX instance. You can start running, Junos commands and treat it just like any other instance of a vMX router that you run in any other environment. So that's the process that you will go through. We want to convert the Amazon key pair into something that Putty understands. In this Learning Byte, we demonstrated how to use Putty to secure shell to a vMX instance running in the Amazon Web Services environment. Thank you very much.
Visit the Juniper Education Services website to learn more about courses. View our full range of classroom, online, and e-learning courses. Learning paths, industry segment and technology-specific training paths. Juniper Network's certification program, the ultimate demonstration of your competence. And the training community, from forums to social media. Join the discussion.